A very warm welcome back, everybody. We're coming to you live from the A2 Lifestyle Center in Soweto, which is the home of the African Book Festival. And I'm now joined by Ayobami Adebayo, who is currently in the country for the second edition of this festival. And she's the co-author, or rather, she's the co-author of the book Stay With Me. And she'll also be participating at this festival. A very good morning to you, Ayobami. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
First of all, take us through what your role will be in this festival.
I'll be speaking about my book today, this morning and this evening, about my book called Stay With Me. So it's wonderful to be here for Abantu Festival, a festival primarily for Black authors to talk about their work and talk about creativity and imagining ourselves into being.
This book, Stay With Me, has been quite a phenomenal success since its release. What has been the inspiration behind it?
Well, I lost a couple of friends to sickle cell anemia and began thinking about the story. And a few years after that, started writing this novel. Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate more on it?
Oh, well, it's a novel about a marriage that's falling apart. And one of the reasons is that they have children who live with sickle cell. But there's so much happening apart from that. One of the things that's happening is that it's the 1980s in Nigeria, and for us it was somewhat turbulent time politically, and so there's all of that going on in the novel also. As this marriage is falling apart, the country itself is sort of unraveling, so there's those two things sort of intertwined throughout the course of the book.
What are your thoughts on the current state of literature, particularly across the continent?
I think we're in a very exciting moment. I also work as an editor for a literary magazine called Saraba Magazine, and just astonished at the amount of talent that I come across. And I think that we're in an important moment, and that going forward we're going to see more wonderful books published by African writers.
Do you think African writers, particularly black writers, are getting enough recognition?
Well, there could be more recognition. I think that there could be more critical attention to the work that's been produced. There could be more commercial attention to the work that's been produced. And I think that's one of the things that Abantu Festival does, that it showcases so many wonderful writers and creates a space for them to interact with the community.
Now, as a Nigerian national yourself, Nigerian literature has been doing very well in the literary landscape. So what sort of fresh perspective are you going to bring into the literary landscape, particularly after attending this festival?
Yeah, I think one of the wonderful things I've learned about from this festival since I got here is how it's sort of right in the community, people can walk in and interact, and literature is not something that's far away in the universities that people think is not relevant to their lives. And I hope that in some way, when I go back home, I would be interested in being involved in initiatives that bring literature closer to the people, because sometimes we think it's something that only professors interact with and all of that, which is not true, actually.
And do you agree with me that taking literature to the people we don't see that in bookshops, particularly white bookshops? You find when you get into a bookshop, you find that all the black book, the authors, they are far at the back.
And you see that happen astonishingly on the continent. You go to Europe, you see that happen. There's this African section that's way in the back of the bookshop. I think it's unfortunate that while you're in other African countries, you also see this happen. But I think that a bit of that is changing. I've been in a couple of bookshops in Nigeria where when you walk in, the first books you see are books by Nigerian and African authors. And I hope that that continues to sort of spread in other parts of the continent, and that it begins to happen in the world where African fiction is not ghettoized in a way, or fiction by black or writing by black authors is not put in some sort of distant back where you sort of have to walk a few miles before you even find the book you're looking for.
Ayobami, thank you so much for chatting to us this morning, and all the best in your book.
Thank you so much for having me.
Indeed. All right, that is Ayobami Adebayo speaking to us live from the A2 Lifestyle Center, which is the home of the Abantu Book Festival. Pearl, it's back to you in studio.